Hello, my name is Freya and today I'll be talking through with you how to make paper potters. These are a great environmentally friendly and pretty much free way of making plant pots to start off your seedlings at home. To make these you will need some newspaper, a round glass jar, some compost or some soil if that's all you've got access to at the moment, some seeds and a high-sided tray to pop them in at the end. And we'll talk through a bit more about these things through the video. And I'll just run through a quick demo now. So you start off with your newspaper on a flat surface and you fold it lengthways across into thirds, so into 3 pieces, so that's 2 folds. You do want to use newspaper for this because glossy magazines and things just don't break down in the same way when you pot it on or plant it out in your garden. So you try and do this bit as neatly as you can, and just so to make the next stage a little bit easier. So now you get your round glass jar, and with the overlapping bit you want that to be over the open end of the jar, with the base just poking out a little bit at the top, and then you just roll it along as neatly as you can. And you don't want to be too tight with this bit, because if it's too tight you won't be able to easily get the jar out at the end, but you do want it to be sort of a snug fit, a sort of Goldilocks and the Three Bears type, just right. And then you tuck the end into the open end of the jar, and this doesn't have to be particularly neatly folded, it's not wrapping a gift, you just sort of shove it all through, because the next bit will be the bit that neatens it up. So once you take your jar out, you get the flat base, and then you put that back in, so you've turned it the other way up, and then you put the flat base in, and then this bit neatens up the bottom and just fixes all of the folds. So you just push it down and turn it, take the jar out, and you've got your paper potter. So it's good to have a few of these, so I've recruited a little helper to help me make some more. Doopy 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 doo. Doopy 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 doo. Oh, they're gonna go everywhere. Oops, oh well. Doopy 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 doo. Doopy 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 doo. Oh, you've got the permanent marker! So these paper potters, they're great, but they're not the toughest, they're not the most permanent, so you wouldn't want to use them in something like a houseplant where you want it to last forever. But for something like starting off your seedlings or growing some sprouts on a windowsill, they're perfect. And when you want to plant the seedlings out, you can just plant the whole pot in the ground. But because they're not the toughest, we want to put them in a high-sided tray. So I've got a mushroom punnet here, or anything that just supports the sides and holds the water. So what we're going to grow today is we're going to grow some herbs and some sprouts for the windowsill. So we've got some coriander seeds, we've got some mustard seeds, and I've also got some basil seeds. Now, the thing with the seeds that I've got to grow with today is that they are actually ones from the spice aisle of my local food shop. They're not ones that have been specifically collected for growing plants, but they've still been produced by the plant to grow new plants. They're still the same kind of seed. The only difference is that they've not been grown in a special way that means that they won't have any pests in them, which means that you want to use this sort of seed for windowsill growing. You don't want to plant this out into your garden because you don't want to accidentally introduce any pests into your garden. So now we're going to fill up our paper potters with some compost, or if you don't have any compost then you can use some soil that you can find near where you live. And before you start doing this, just make sure you've checked your hands for any little cuts or grazes and covered them in a waterproof plaster, because you don't want any germs from the soil getting into them. Doopy 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 doo. Doopy 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 doo. Doopy 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 doo. So the seeds we worked with in the last video were peas, so we did pea shoots in takeaway containers. Now these are great because they're big seeds, they're easy to see, they're easy to handle, but today we're going to be working with basil seeds and also the mustard seeds and the coriander seeds, but the mustard seeds and the basil seeds in particular, they're really, really little seeds, so they're hard to handle and they're hard to see. But the plant is great because these plants, you can eat the leaves, you can eat the flowers, you can eat the seeds. So you don't have to worry too much about what happens if one gets accidentally eaten. And also when you're growing the plant, you know that everything you've got at the end you can use. But one thing you do have to do is make sure that you wash your hands and give the plants a rinse before you do that. So a great way to get round the fact that they're hard to handle and they're hard to see is just to pour a few of them out and put them in the lid of the jar that you used to make the paper potter. So this will hold them in one place, and also mean that if they do get spilt, it's only a few of them, it's not the whole packet. And then you can just use these, you can throw them around, you can get them in your pot, you can plant them quite thickly because you can always thin them out at a later stage, and that's nothing to worry about. Then write what it is that you've planted on the side of the container and the date that you planted it. We'll repeat the process for the coriander and the mustard seeds, and then we'll pop them on a sunny windowsill and give them a bit of a water and just keep them damp but not wet. And then in the next few weeks they should start to grow. Thank you very much for joining us, and just make sure you make time to play.
Doopy 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 doo. Doopy 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 doo.